My name is David Carter. I'm 38 years old, a CPA in a mid-sized American city. The kind of guy people picture when they hear the words stable and boring in the same sentence. My life was spreadsheets, deadlines, and the rhythm of tax seasons. I told myself that grinding through long hours was what a good husband and father did. You carry the weight so your family doesn't have to. Simple math. Ashley, my wife, was 34 then. Emma, our daughter, was 9. All gap-toothed smiles and messy ponytails. The only chaos I actually enjoyed. Our house ran on routine. School drop-offs, kid cartoons, leftovers reheated too many times. We weren't excited, but I thought we were solid. I confused quiet with safe. Looking back, I can see all the small shifts. Ashley scrolled her phone more, turning it face down on the table. Shorter answers, less eye contact. The way her laugh showed up more for whatever was on her screen than for anything I said. At the time, I filed it under one word: stress. She'd say she was tired. I'd nod, tell her I understood, and go back to my laptop. We weren't touching much. Conversations got practical: Emma's schedule, bills, groceries. Nothing that cut deeper than the surface. I noticed it, sure. I just chose not to dig. That Friday night, I was still at the office when most people were already at home starting their weekends. Papers stacked around me, the glow of my monitor making the room feel even emptier. I glanced at the time, sighed, and pulled out my phone. Working late again. Don't wait up. Love you. I hit send thinking I was being considerate. I imagined her seeing it, rolling her eyes maybe, but understanding. In my head, it translated as, I'm doing this for us. What I didn't know then was how it read on the other side: your second place. Again, when I finally walked into the house that night, it was quiet. Too quiet if I'm being honest, but I brushed that off. No TV, no dishes clinking, no Emma's voice echoing down the hall. Her overnight bag was gone, so I assumed Ashley had dropped her at a friend's sleepover. Ash, I called out once. Nothing. I checked the kitchen, the living room, and our bedroom. Her purse wasn't on the counter. No shoes by the door. Her car was gone from the driveway. I didn't panic. Why would I? We weren't that couple. At least that's what I told myself. I just shrugged and thought she must be at Megan's. Megan Brooks, her sister, lived 15 minutes away and loved dragging Ashley out for wine and sister talk. In my mind, that's where she was. On a couch with a glass of red, venting about work, maybe venting about me working too much. It annoyed me sometimes, but it didn't scare me. I heated leftovers, ate standing at the counter, and went to bed alone, chalking it all up to a long week for both of us. I didn't ask questions. I didn't call. I didn't wonder what she was wearing, who she was with, or what she was doing. Back then, I didn't know about the red dress. I didn't know about the velvet lantern. I didn't know about the bartender with the easy smile. All of that came later through grainy videos, tagged photos, and the kind of screenshots that make your stomach feel like it's dropping through the floor. That night, I chose the easiest version of the truth. My wife was just stressed, and so was I. The harder version, that she was already slipping away from me in ways I didn't want to see, had already started. I just hadn't caught up yet. The first time I went to the Velvet Lantern, I was sitting at my kitchen table in sweatpants with a cold cup of coffee, not a drink in my hand. By the time I was done scrolling, I knew that club better than some of the guys who were actually there. That night, in real time, all I knew was one sentence: going out with Megan. Don't wait up. I texted back something basic: have fun, be safe. Then went back to pretending the glow of my laptop was normal. I pictured them at some quiet bar, a couple of cocktails, sister talk. Nothing serious. I didn't know I should have been picturing a red dress and a bartender with his hands a little too free. The Velvet Lantern came to me later in pieces, blurry clips, sharp screenshots, and details I paid my attorney to drag out people under oath. From what I've seen, the place is exactly what you'd expect on a Friday. Pulsing lights, bodies packed tight, music loud enough to hide bad decisions. The kind of spot where being married is just a ring you can tuck behind a drink. Ashley walked in wearing a red dress I didn't even know she owned. Tight, clean lines, hugging every curve. I saw it for the first time the way half the city did, through a phone screen. In photo after photo, it's the same. My wife lit up like she's been waiting months to feel that alive. Then there's Ryan Cole, bartender. Easy smile. The kind of guy who leans in when he talks so you feel like you're the only person in the room. In the videos, you can see him pouring her drinks, laughing, bracing one hand on the bar like he lives there, which he does. Megan's in full live a little mode. Shots, selfies, spinning her phone around the dance floor. At first it's harmless, two sisters with cocktails. Then the angle shifts and I see it. Ashley pressed against some broad-shouldered guy, his hands on her hips, her arms looped around his neck, slow dancing like they're in a corner of the world that doesn't include husbands and kids. You don't mistake that kind of body language for small talk. The selfie that really lit the match wasn't even supposed to be about her. Megan's at arm's length, duck lips, captioned, "Girls' night. Don't wait up." In the background, the story isn't Megan. It's Ashley, red dress, back arched, laughing into a stranger's face while two people at a nearby table point, mouths forming the words, "Isn't that David Carter's wife?" That clip got replayed, screenshotted, zoomed in, passed around. By co-workers, by neighbors, by people who barely knew us but loved a train wreck. While all of that was happening, I was half asleep on the couch, TV murmuring, assuming my wife was safe with her sister. By the time I finally saw everything, I'd watched that night more times than Ashley probably remembers living it. Saturday morning, I woke up expecting noise. Emma's cartoons, coffee brewing. Ashley hummed something off-key while she burned pancakes. Normal. Instead, the house was still. My head felt heavy from too little sleep and too many numbers from the night before. I shuffled into the kitchen, hit the coffee maker, and checked my phone out of habit. First text. "Hey man, you okay?" From a buddy I hadn't seen in months. Weird, but okay. I thumbed a reply, stopped halfway. Second text. "Have you seen Megan's stories?" My chest tightened a little. I opened Instagram. The first video autoplayed. Megan screaming into the camera, club lights behind her, the caption bouncing, "Velvet lantern with my girl." I almost backed out, already annoyed. Then I saw Ashley. Red dress, stranger's hands on her hips. Her face turned up toward him like he'd said the funniest thing she'd heard all year. The song was loud enough to shake my phone speaker, but I heard my own pulse louder. I swiped. Another clip. Ashley at the bar, leaning over to say something to Ryan. His face is close to hers. Her ring hand around a drink, the band catching the light. My name wasn't in that frame anywhere. My coffee went cold next to me while I watched my wife's night on a loop. By the time Ashley walked into the kitchen, hair a mess, makeup smeared, sunglasses on indoors, I'd counted 17 messages. Friends, co-workers, a neighbor, all some version of, "Man, do you know what's all over Instagram?" She yawned. "Morning." I turned the laptop toward her. Megan's story paused on the worst possible frame. "What's this?" She squinted, took a breath. "David, it's just dancing. You're seriously going to be paranoid over some stupid videos?" "Just dancing," I repeated. "With a guy whose hands are all over you." Her jaw tightened. "You're being controlled. Everyone drinks, everyone dances. It was one night." 17 messages buzzed in my phone like backup singers. At that moment, I wasn't even angry yet. Anger's hot. It was cold, heavy. I looked at her and realized I believed two things at the same time. She didn't think she'd done anything truly wrong, and my marriage wasn't what I thought it was. My phone rang, my mom. I let it go to voicemail. I closed the laptop. "I'm going to pick up Emma," I said. "When I get back, we're going to talk about where this marriage stands." She scoffed, rolled her eyes, but she didn't say much else. The courtroom started in that kitchen. The judge just showed up months later. That weekend felt like walking around inside a thundercloud, quiet, dark, and charged with something you couldn't see but knew was there. The internet moved faster than we did. By Saturday afternoon, the videos had already burned through our little city. By Sunday, people weren't asking if I'd seen them. They were asking what I was going to do. Ashley and I did what a lot of couples do when the walls start cracking. We pretended it was still a house. I slept in the guest room, just for a few days. She stayed in our bedroom. We spoke in low voices behind closed doors like our daughter wouldn't notice. Emma noticed everything. Monday, her school called. The tone in the secretary's voice told me before the words did that something was wrong. Mr. Carter. Emma's been crying on and off all morning. She told her teacher she's scared that you and her mom don't love each other anymore. She asked if she could call you because you looked sad this morning. That one landed harder than any screenshot. That night, we finally sat down in the living room. No TV, no distractions. Just us and a silence that felt heavier than the furniture. I started with the part that had nothing to do with the club. You've been distant for months, Ash. Phone in your hand more than your eyes on me. We don't talk. We don't touch. I've been telling myself it's stressful. She crossed her arms. It was stressful. And one stupid night where things got out of hand. That's it. I pulled up the video of her and the broad-shouldered guy on my phone, hit play, and let the room fill with the beat of a song I'd never heard before the internet shoved it in my face. I haven't seen you move like that with me in years, I said quietly. She swallowed. I just wanted to feel good about myself. For once. You couldn't feel that at home? With your husband? With your kid down the hall? Her hesitation said more than any apology she could have tried to muster. By the time I told her I needed space and I'd be staying in the guest room for real, it wasn't a threat. It wasn't some dramatic line in the sand. It was me admitting the obvious. I didn't recognize my own marriage anymore. My mother called it a family meeting. I knew from the tone it was going to feel more like court. We sat in my parents' living room on a Wednesday night like it was any other visit, except it wasn't. My dad, George, in his usual armchair looking like he wished he could be anywhere else. My mom, Linda, perched on the edge of the couch, hands folded like a referee who'd already picked a side. My teenage niece Haley is in the corner, pretending to scroll her phone but catching everything. Ashley sat on the opposite couch from me, arms folded tight, jaw set. I had a manila folder in my lap. I'd never imagined I'd be that guy, the one who brought evidence on his own wife to his parents' house. Mom broke the silence. We're here because we love you both. But this, she gestured to the folder, to Ashley, to me. This can't just be swept under the rug. Ashley let out a humorless laugh. It was one night, a misunderstanding that everyone's turned into a circus. I opened the folder. First, the photos, printed in color like exhibits. Ashley pressed against another man at 11:47 p.m. Timestamp in the corner. Her leaning into Ryan at the bar at 12:23 a.m. His face inches from hers. Her handing him her phone, smiling like a teenager. The ring on her finger catching the bar lights. I laid them on the coffee table one by one. I didn't enjoy it. My stomach was tight the whole time. Next, the records. Phone logs. Call durations. These are calls to Ryan's number, I said. The bartender. 9 calls over 3 days after the club. Ashley shifted. He was talking about a mailing list. VIP thing for the bar. You're really doing this? Haley looked up from her screen. It takes 9 calls to join a VIP list? The room went quiet. I'm not trying to humiliate you, I said, keeping my voice level. I'm trying to show you what I and everybody else are seeing. This isn't nothing, Ash. Her eyes flashed. All of you are ganging up on me over some pictures and phone calls. No one's asking how I feel. No one's asking why I needed a night out. Mom started to say something. I held up a hand. This isn't an ambush, I said. This is the point where you either own what you did or keep pretending it's everyone else's fault. She stared at the photos, then at me. You're punishing me for wanting to feel alive for once. That was the moment something in me settled. I've already scheduled a consultation with a lawyer, I said. No drama, just fact. I'm looking at legal separation and custody. I want Emma with me for now. I want you to stay with Megan. Mom covered her mouth. Dad shut his eyes. Haley blinked hard. Ashley shook her head like she could physically knock the words away. You can't be serious. I am, I said. I'm done arguing about whether this is real. I'm taking action. You can either face it with me like an adult, or keep calling it a misunderstanding. But the process has already started. For the first time since that red dress hit the internet, she looked genuinely scared. It didn't feel like winning. It felt like finally admitting we'd already lost something a long time ago. If Scene 5 was emotional court in my parents' living room, Parker and Langford was the upgrade. Same judgment, better chairs. I sat in a polished office across from a woman in a navy suit who could have been talking about a business deal instead of my life. She flipped through my file photos, call logs, screenshots, and translated my marriage into clean phrases. Irreconcilable differences, emotional infidelity, breach of marital trust. Given the impact on your daughter, she said, I recommend filing for legal separation and requesting temporary primary custody. Not revenge, not payback, just structure. Emma had been walking around with worry in her eyes since that weekend. She didn't need more chaos, so I signed petitions for legal separation, temporary custody, support arrangements. My hand didn't shake. It felt like signing a contract I should have read a long time ago. A few days later, a courier took a thick envelope to Megan's apartment. Service of process. Ashley Carter officially notified. I pictured her opening it on her sister's worn-out couch, papers spilling into her lap, seeing our problems boiled down to numbered paragraphs and legal codes. Part of me felt for her. The other part remembered those videos, those calls, the way she'd stared at evidence and still tried to make herself the victim. Sympathy had to stand in line behind reality. Then came the parking lot. I pulled into Emma's school, temporary custody order in my glove compartment. She climbed into the passenger seat, backpack thumping against the door, talking about a spelling test like the world wasn't on fire. Ashley's car whipped in 2 spots. She got out fast, eyes locked on me, not our daughter. She came to my window. What are you doing, David? A lawyer? Paperwork? Are you serious? I rolled the window down halfway and handed her the envelope. This is a temporary custody order, I said quietly. Emma's staying with me for now. Emma looked between us, silent, small. It looked ugly. I felt worse. 2 adults arguing through glass while a kid watched from the middle. But underneath all that, one thing stayed clear in my head. If boundaries don't cost anything, they don't mean anything. I chose to let this one cost me. Sunday, she let herself in like nothing in our lives had changed. I was at the kitchen table, bills spread out, coffee half gone. The house felt different now, same walls, same furniture, but the air was heavier. The separation paperwork sat in a neat stack by my elbow like a quiet witness. The front door clicked. Keys hit the bowl. Her footsteps crossed the hardwood. Ashley walked into the kitchen in jeans and a hoodie, hair pulled back. No makeup. No red dress, no club lights. Just my wife, at least that's who she looked like. We're really doing this? She asked, nodding at the papers. Lawyers? Custody? Over one night of dancing. It wasn't just one night, I said. It was months of distance, and then one night the whole city got to watch. She shook her head. We're throwing away 12 years over a mistake. Call it what it was, I said. Plural. Mistakes. Choices. She leaned on the counter, eyes flashing. Fine. I made mistakes. I drank too much. I let things go too far. I talked to someone I shouldn't have talked to. Happy? No, I said, because that still sounds like you see yourself as the one being punished. Not the one who blew up her family. She went quiet for a second, then tried another angle. We should be in counseling, not court. People fix worse than this with a therapist. Part of me wanted to grab onto that. Sit on some couch, have a stranger hand us words like communication breakdown and emotional needs. Pretend all of this could get smoothed over with homework assignments and scheduled intimacy. But I'd heard enough. How do you really feel about Ryan? I asked. She flinched. That half-second pause told me more than anything she'd said so far. He made me feel seen, she admitted. Like I was still attractive. Like I mattered. I nodded slowly. And instead of telling me you felt invisible, you told him. Over the phone. From our bedroom. While our daughter slept down the hall. I was lonely, she snapped. You were married to your job. Your laptop got more of you than I did. She wasn't wrong. I'd spent years letting work drain me dry, coming home with nothing left but small talk and exhaustion. I'd let our connection thin out until it was more habit than bond. I own my part, I said. I checked out. I let us drift. That's on me. But there's a line I didn't cross. She stared at me, jaw tight. You took the rawest parts of our marriage, I continued. The parts that were supposed to be between us, and you handed them to another man. The flirting, the secrets, the late-night calls, the dancing. That was you choosing him as your outlet instead of me. She folded her arms. So that's it? You're just done? No counseling, no trying, nothing? Counseling works when both people tell the truth, I said. We can't fix what you still won't fully name. You're more upset about the consequences than the damage. You're being unforgiving, she said. You'd rather blow up our life than admit you had a hand in this. I already admitted my hand in it, I said. I just won't use my guilt as a reason to stay in something that's rotted out. She blinked fast, eyes glossy but fighting it. I thought you were better than this. I thought we were stronger than a bartender and a dance floor, I replied. Turns out we were both wrong about something. The clock on the wall ticked between us. This is why I chose lawyers instead of counseling, I said finally. Because right now you're still trying to beat the charge, not own what you did. She grabbed her bag, knocking a chair with her hip. You'll regret this, she tossed over her shoulder. Maybe, maybe not. The door shut behind her. The papers on the table didn't move. For the first time in a long time, my decision felt like it belonged to me. Courthouses smell like old paper and bad coffee. Funny place for something as raw as a marriage to end. 3 months after the red dress, Ashley and I sat on opposite sides of a beige waiting room, each with a lawyer between us like translators. She wore a dark dress, hair neat, makeup careful. I wore a suit that suddenly felt heavier than anything I'd ever put on for work. We didn't talk. We just stole glances like strangers who recognized each other from a past life. When they called our case, we walked into a room that looked more like a conference space than a battlefield. Judge Karen Williams presided. Late 50s, sharp eyes, voice that didn't waste words. She wasn't there for our feelings. She was there for facts. My attorney started laying them out. First came the photos, blown up on an easel the way you'd display marketing materials at a trade show. Only this was my wife, pressed against another man, time-stamped. My wife is leaning over a bar toward Ryan. My wife handed him her phone, smiling like the rules didn't apply to her that night. Then the call logs, dates, times, durations, numbers listed like a heartbeat pattern of a marriage flatlining. After that, the texts, screenshots of messages between Ashley and Ryan I hadn't even known existed until discovery. Talking to you makes me feel alive again. Sometimes I wonder if there's more out there for me. She'd never said those things to me. Not once. Ryan took the stand. Clean shirt, hair tamed, no bar music to hide behind. He admitted to flirty banter, late-night conversations, her venting about feeling unseen at home, her hinting she might want something more if she ever got the courage. He said they never slept together. Maybe that was true. Maybe it wasn't. By then, it almost didn't matter. The betrayal wasn't in a bed. It was in everything that led up to the possibility. The worst moment wasn't any of that. It was when they called Emma. She looked too small for the witness chair, feet not quite touching the floor, hands twisting in her lap. They swore at her in any way, voice shaking as she promised to tell the truth. Emma, the judge said gently, do you remember hearing your mom on the phone late at night? She nodded. Yes. Was she talking to your dad? Tiny pause. No, it was a man. Not Daddy. What did you feel when you heard that? Emma's voice cracked. I was scared my mom might go away, and that my dad was sad. He looked sad a lot. If there was a moment I could have walked out and ended the whole thing myself, it was that. But we were past the point of walking out. The only way out now was through. When it was over, Judge Williams shuffled her notes, took a breath, and gave our mess a label. She called Ashley's behavior emotional infidelity, called it a fundamental breach of marital trust. Said the pattern, photos, calls, messages, the impact on our daughter. Showed a wife who'd moved her emotional loyalty outside the marriage long before lawyers got involved. Then came the ruling. Primary custody to me. The house to me. Most of the assets to me. Ashley got supervised visitation for a period, minimum support, and a hard look at the consequences of her one night of dancing. The gavel didn't slam. It was calmer than that. Just her voice, firm and final. In the hallway afterward, Ashley caught up to me. Her eyes were red, makeup running. "David, please," she said. "I get it now. I was stupid. I was selfish. I'll change. We can fix this. Don't throw everything away." I believed part of her. I believed she could change. "I don't think you're incapable of being better," I said. "I just don't think you can do it inside this marriage. Not after everything that's happened. Not after everything you only started seeing when a judge spelled it out for you." Her face crumpled. "So that's it?" "Yeah," I said. "That's it." My lawyer walked ahead. Emma was waiting with my parents downstairs. As I left the courthouse, I realized something. The law hadn't told me anything my gut hadn't already tried to say. It just put official words to what I'd been afraid to call by its real name. It's been a little over 2 years. The house I live in now is smaller. Fewer rooms, cheaper furniture, quieter neighborhood. But the peace fits better than the square footage ever did. Emma's 11. She laughs like a kid again. Not the tight, careful laugh she had in the middle of everything, watching every adult in the room like a weather report. Real laughs now, at stupid memes, at my bad dad jokes, at the dog we adopted because the house felt too empty without one more heartbeat in it. There's someone else in my life too, Claire. She teaches at Emma's school, 5th grade. Firm but kind. She doesn't chase chaos. She doesn't need a nightclub to feel alive. Her idea of a good weekend is a movie, a home-cooked meal, and being asleep by 10. 5 years ago, I might have called that boring. Now I call it safe. Ashley lives across town in a small apartment. 1 bedroom. Modest. Her visits with Emma started out strained. Awkward hugs, too many apologies, weird silences. They're better now. Not fixed, but better. Ryan faded out of her life as soon as the drama stopped making him feel important. That's the thing about guys like him. They're there for the fireworks, not the cleanup. I got remarried last summer. Simple ceremony. Nothing flashy. Emma was the flower girl. She took it seriously, counting her steps, scattering petals like she was rewiring her own idea of family with every handful. People posted pictures. Me in a suit, Claire in a simple dress, Emma grinning between us. I'd bet money those photos popped up on Ashley's phone the same way that red dress popped up on mine. Too late to change anything. Here's what I tell myself, and you, if you're listening for more than entertainment. Emotional cheating doesn't start with a kiss. It starts with secrets. By telling a stranger things you should be telling your spouse. With letting someone outside your home become your first call instead of your last resort. I won't lie, I helped weaken the ground. I worked too much. I checked out. I let our marriage drift on autopilot. But she's the one who took what was left and handed it to somebody else. The velvet lantern still shows up in my head sometimes. The red dress, the bartender, the screenshots. I don't fight it. I let the memory play, then I remind myself what it bought me. A harder kind of peace, a clearer spine, a life where my boundaries actually mean something. If my story does anything for you, let it do this. Don't play stupid games with just dancing and just talking while your family is at home counting on you. Don't call it stress when it's really far. Don't wait for a judge to tell you what your gut already knows. I lost a marriage in that mess. But I found a man I can live with in the mirror. That's the trade I live with. And that's the truth.